You can go a long, long, long ways in their inner journey on one condition. That condition is that you know nothing about the journey at all. If you know anything about it, if you have imaginations, desires, you have any thought about it at all, you won't go on the journey. What you will do is follow your own side path, dozens of them, hundreds of them, which means you're not on the main highway, and you'll never arrive at the final destination. So see how this goes opposite to everything that you have been taught, that you have experienced and lived by in the social, physical world. In this world, you're told, and rightly so, to prepare for your profession, prepare for taking care of your home, to get ideas, to use your imagination, planning something. So you're going to have to give yourself a very heavy jolt in order to break away from that kind of thinking when you think about, have ideas about the inner journey. The start and the finish. By the way, see, there's no time in that. There's no start, no finish. There's no time, right? It takes time for go to here to there. The start and the finish are the same thing in the timeless state. The thought that you're starting somewhere will prevent you from starting and therefore finishing, because you never started in the first place. It's very complex. Follow. I'm watching my own mind, how hard it is to reduce from thought to the spirit. But here we go. And it can be very clear. It's clear to me. I know what I'm talking about. I have to work to translate it. In the world of no thought, the world of non-self, in that world, there's no journey at all. So even when I talk to you about taking the journey, you have to understand that I am using time terms, as if there is a start and an arrival place. So all the time I'm talking, you have to remember that in communication, in books, tapes, you're constantly using time terms. But you must know this so that you don't think that I'm talking about time. I have to use expressions, parables, illustrations, ideas. But you must now understand that if you want to, here I go on a long, successful spiritual journey, you must not know anything about it. You must drop all thoughts about the journey in order to make the journey. Because if you think about it, there will be the thought you saying, I'm on the spiritual road. And then because you thought about it, you'll say, the next thing to do is to get some beads to wear around my neck. Can you imagine men wearing beads? You'll think about giving yourself a label, a religious person, a person on the path. All thoughts about you making the inner journey are imagination, and the journey won't be made. You can make and complete the spiritual journey right now, right now in this room. You can start it and you can complete it by knowing that there is no such thing as a spiritual journey, because that implies time. There's no time in eternity. That implies thinking. There's no thinking in heaven. There's knowing. That implies a self, a person who's going to make the trip, and there is no such person making the trip. Now back to the original point. You can go a long, long ways every day in the inner journey by not knowing, not having any ideas or thoughts about what it means to make the journey. Otherwise, you're just taking bricks at the start of the path, putting them on your back, weighting you down, and if you put them on the wrong shoulder, too many on one shoulder, it will bend you one way and you'll go off the path that way. When you know that there's no one to succeed spiritually, there is success but no succeeder. Got it? Again, a caution and an explanation. Your false nature is going to use every trick and device it can think about to prevent you from making the journey, because then it still has you, which is what it wants. It wants to remain itself. Therefore, it doesn't want to lose you, because if it loses you, it has no one to live with. And your purpose is to give your old nature no one to live with, no one to manipulate, to cause pain to. That's your purpose, to separate yourself from who you think you are. Now, you can say, and with accuracy, that each day that you understand more about the whole business of life, society with its economics and its politics and its wars, the more you know about yourself, the more you know about spiritual laws, then you can say, rightly, that you have made progress in the inner journey. But look and see what that means. That means to make progress in the inner journey means that you understand that there's no inner journey and no one to make progress. So see what this is really all about. It's all about you with conscious insight getting it increasingly so every day, the fact that there is nothing for you to do but to understand. When you understand, the whole world changes. The way you see everything. Because that is simply a seeing of awareness of reality inside of you, which has no bricks on it at all. Now, if you can study both your own nature and the human natures surrounding you, you can get a better idea of what we're talking about by seeing how a neurotic world goes on individual and collective journeys, that is, the individuals and countries and groups. They go on their journeys to nowhere. But their journeys to nowhere are called going somewhere. And I want you to see and understand that the lie of going somewhere is so gigantic. You who have been here for years are going to have trouble seeing through it, because you have accepted it for granted with the mechanical part of your mind that social programs, spiritual programs out in the world, you've been conditioned to believe that they are good and necessary. And the reason you think that, because you still don't see that there's something else besides what they say. Look at it. Did you ever hear a government or a politician or a preacher or your next door neighbor or your relative, did you ever hear any of them without a plan for changing the world, for saving it? That's their journey, isn't it? They know what to do. You casually drop in how you voted at the last election. Oh, you voted for him. You should have voted for her. Female politicians, a male is bad enough. Ladies, be ladies. Oh, men, be men. Summary and continuation. If you think about where you're going nowhere. If you think about your rewards on the inner path, if you think about your rewards, they're going to crumble in your hands. All thought involves precious, darling, so-called you, who's going to get a reward, who's going to find something, who's at last going to be happy. This is a time self which stays in the area of time, calling it eternity, because the mind is very, very cunning and lying. Now, if you have not got anywhere in your inner journey, if you have not arrived at a little bit more understanding, awareness, consciousness, if you have not achieved that a little bit more every day, then you're going to have to see the reason why, which I've been explaining to you. You're going to have to see that you've made the mistake of thinking that you can go somewhere, that there is someone who can achieve. In the first place, you have heard over and over in this room that there's nothing to achieve. There's nothing to get. Where there is a yearner, a seeker, a desirer, there is also the object of that desire. And the desirer hopes that by arriving at the end of what he calls the path, he hopes that by arriving there, then the anxiety and the pain in the desire will go away and you will be happy. You've done this so many times, I'm surprised, not really, that you don't see through your self-deception. That you don't see that you always arrive back to the same place. And you're very careful not to understand too much of this. That ever occur to you? Yes. That you're on guard right now. Your old acquired nature is on guard not to understand, lest it lose itself in the light that's trying to shine inside your mind. You're very, very, you crouch down a little bit and you put your, I actually see it physically. I do all the time. They're going like that. They're watching. What's he going to... All this is an outward expression of the inner, quote mark, protector that is going to try to keep itself tyrannizing over you with your cooperation. For example, every time you cry. Whenever you cry about anything, you are aligning yourself with the force that doesn't want you to take the true journey. The true journey, now in a little bit of summary, the true journey being an instantaneous and forever dropping of all ideas that you have anything to do. Write it on a piece of paper if necessary. Who is going anywhere? Now track back the who. Who are you? Who is trying to go somewhere to be successful inwardly? Who is the person? Write it down. Describe yourself. An anxious person is going on a journey. A person loaded with hostility is going to go to a peaceful land, right? A negative you, a negative self, is going to take a trip where there is no negativity. That's never a straight line. It's always a circle. You always find yourself. Now look. The devil is trembling now at these exposures. Maybe you can feel it. If you can't feel it, try to feel it. Try to feel something that is disturbing you. You don't want to get this. You can trick the devil as often as you want. And every time you do that, you're aligning yourself on the side of reality. As I am talking, you can see what's happening inside of you and see this archenemy of your waking up. All right. In the kingdom of heaven, there is no self. By the way, that can be you right now. You could be in the kingdom of heaven right now if you let go and collapse. There is no self, no problems, no one to say, I'm going to take a journey from being hostile to being peaceful. I wonder if that single point is clear to you. Take it home if not. How many of you have hostility, anger, irritation, name the whole business? You've got it, haven't you? All right. Now how can you, which is hostile, angry, how can that thing which you call you, which is not you, how can that take a trip and at the end of the trip turn into something that is not hostile? Can't. But if you see anger, hatred here, and don't give it an I, a self, but know that it has possessed you, that, now we'll use the term, that is the start of the journey, isn't it? Because I describe the journey as every day seeing something, understanding it in your heart, not just your head, understand something that you never understood before. So looking at your nature as it is, describing it, tell yourself everything you know about yourself. The seeing of that will pull out of you the desire to make your journey on your terms to your destination, to your reward. Because you will see that you can't travel with this hostility. How can it be right to travel with a hostile nature, right? So here's what you have to do at the start. You have to see the hostility there without you saying, I am hostile. If you say, yeah, that's right, I've got so much hatred in me. That's the devil saying that. Don't you understand that? You're building an identity that you're hateful, and the devil loves you. He's got you. You're not hateful, you're not loving, you are nothing. That nothing is everything. Now there it is. If you see this, if you understand that there's no point in you trying to change hostility to spiritual glory, there's no point fooling around with it, that insight would come from you making a separation between you and what has possessed you presently. Dark spirits have possessed you. You understand? There are such things as dark. What do you want to call them? See, the world always uses labels to not see. And a person who comes in here and uses the word angry moods, they can accept that. You start talking about evil spirits, they think you're going off into some mystical... I want to tell you, they're evil spirits. And I want you to know that they don't want you to know about their existence. The more you know about them, the less power they have. All right. So you're over here looking and seeing that there's something working, agitating inside of you. It's really tearing you apart. That has no sense or intelligence in it at all. And you have said in your heart that you want to become intelligent. You want to really control yourself, your life. You want that. Now, that part that says, I want intelligent control, that part can look at the devil-dominated, demon-possessed parts inside of you that are hateful, that are egotistical, that says, yeah, go on a journey. That's all right. They lie. Say, go on a journey. See, they want them to go on a journey. See, trying to make you think that you are them, which you are not. You catching them in a state of anger, which means impartial observation of them. When you, the right part of you is simply seeing darkness as darkness, that's one long mile in the journey, right? Because you've seen something, you've separated. You'll find that the journey is a different thing from that what your time mind tries to tell you. And you'll see that if you could do it, you can make the journey from here to there instantaneously by collapsing time, by dissolving yourself where there's no time. And when there's no time, there's only now, there's only eternity, there's only the present. Now, I've given you a clue on how to outwit the devil. That clue, we'll restate it now, is to remind yourself to stay close to the one little right part in you. And you do have one little right part in you, most of you. To stay close to that, please listen. And let it see for you the dark nature over there that keeps hammering and lying to you about taking the spiritual journey. People who don't do this become religious nuts. They become dangers to themselves. And it's happening outside that door in hundreds of thousands of religious places right at this very moment. All around the world, all those people in that building, they're all listening to a sick voice that sounds sweet. It can be very musical. Oh, so charming. Have you ever noticed hymns, for example, that on a certain level, they are beautiful? And I want to tell you that on a certain level where it's a pretty music, that is right. That's not wrong. But they take They take that pretty music hymn, maybe, not the words, forget the words, they're all mixed up with truth and error. But take the music itself, and there's an I that goes into the melody and says, I feel God here this morning. Shall I tell you what they're feeling? I don't have to, do I? They're feeling something very evil. You know what that evil is? Feeling themselves. What else? They are feeling themselves. We're trying not to feel ourselves anymore. To get rid of that hoax that looks so good, that sounds so good, and it feels so good. But I'll tell you, it feels good only to that nature over there. It can never feel good to what's here. Have you ever, let me ask you, this is so nice. Have you ever, in your spiritual journey, even that much felt the beauty of being right? Look, a little bit of right. Have you ever done that? There's no way that little bit of knowledge, wisdom, spiritual insight, there's no way that those dark forces over there can infiltrate and take that over. There's no way. They're not going to, that darkness is not going to come near that little bit of light you have, which is why you must develop it more and more, make it stronger and stronger and stronger. And at the 51% mark, you are saved forever. There's no way after that 51%. You have seen a lot of people who quit at the 10%. 12%, 15%. We have to use figures, you understand, to make it sensible to us. You keep going to that 51% mark, which is what this work is all about. You go to that mark, you will know inside yourself, you can never go into as much darkness as you did the day before. You know it. You know you're not at the end of the journey because you haven't collapsed the time self yet. But the whole thing becomes clear and understandable. And oh, how excited you'll get. You'll get excited over anything, whatever associated with New Life Foundation. Even the work down there. Look, you found a treasure that no one in this world knows about. Almost no one knows about. You've gone through all the false treasures, haven't you? Remember how you got excited over that sick group you were with? Remember that? 5 of them, 10 of them. How many of you know you found the pearl of great price? You've caught a glimpse. All we ask is a glimpse. That's enough. Keep going after that. Go faster, go harder. And use those terms in ordinary way. Work harder. If you work harder, you'll run into more problems with yourself. And that's what it's all about. And after the problems come the healing. Take a break. On occasions, I have asked you to take paper and pencil and write down the many fears that you have in you. And if you did that, you found out you had a pretty lengthy list, did you not? All the things that terrorize you throughout the day and throughout the night. But in thinking about that list, I think it quite likely that there's one you missed. Oh, you could put down the common fears of losing something, of someone yelling at you, of not being able to succeed in some earthly task you have. Those you remember. These are the surface ones you have which connect with your false ideas of how you should succeed in this life. Now, the one fear, which I doubt very much if you put down, was one in which you feared seeing through yourself. Now let's rephrase that a little bit. You do have this fear, you know. You do have this anxiety that you might catch something in yourself that goes contrary to your idealistic self-image of who you imagine you are and who you are not at all in reality. I want you from now on to be conscious of this anxiety that you have, that at any moment you might catch a glimpse of yourself as you really are. And the reason you don't want to see it is because you sense that if you see yourself as you are in reality and living a fantasy life, which is all you ever do, if you see it, you fear you won't know what to do next. You have the idealistic image that you're a gentle person. You're kindly, you don't blow up, and you're a volcano smoldering, and you won't see that. You fear that if you see the volcano or explode, which you do inwardly, by the way, you fear that you won't know what to do next. Now, look very closely at this. Look what you're insisting upon doing. You have an imaginary image that you're a nonviolent person, that you're a good person, kindly and all that. And you fear that you might glimpse something contrary to that, and you won't know what to do. I want you to know and see everything I have talked about in connection with you is a fantasy. Look at it. No, the people don't come here. They don't want to hear this. You're afraid to see yourself as you actually are for fear it may shock you. Therefore you say, if I knew what to do, I would see myself. See how clever you are in self-deception. You think there is someone there who can handle your fantasy, which you don't even see that. You are always inventing the Savior, the hero, the rescuer, the helper who is going to save you from yourself. And because way down, you know absolutely the helper is non-existent, you go crazy. Well, aren't you? Aren't you glad that this room, this room is truly gentle, so gentle that it tells you that you're mad. You therefore refuse to see your folly, the underground churnings, emotions, petty little things, wanting a petty little advantage, wanting to get 50 cents more. You refuse to see that because you think if you see yourself as you are, you won't know what to do next. I'll tell you how to become truly sane. Go all the way, starting right now. You go all the way towards seeing yourself as you actually operate, and never, never, never ask what to do about it. Well, that's what you do now, and look at you. Come on, I'm telling you about yourself. Aren't you seeing yourself in my description of you? You always know what to do. You always have an answer. I lost my temper, but next time it'll be different. I'll change. See, you always have an answer, and your answer is always a lie, which is why you don't change. There is no rescuer for a delusion. How do you rescue a delusion? A delusion is a nothing. Look, right here, there's nothing. How do you do anything with that nothingness? There's nothing there. It's a thought, an idea, a belief that you have about yourself. So you think you can operate and talk from yourself, which you're just operating from this fantasy. Now, I just told you what you're going to have to do to rescue yourself from yourself if you want it. If you're satisfied with being an idiot, then this isn't for you, what we're talking about. But if you're beginning to get dissatisfied with your phoniness, with your hardness, if you're dissatisfied with your secret tears, you're in the right place. Well, shall we cover that a little bit? You know what a faker you are. You want to argue with me? There's no way you're going to argue with me. I'm telling you the truth. You can't argue with the truth. And you're so sad that you can't win an ego victory here. Of course you can't. That's why it can save you where that bar can't, where that boyfriend can't, where that television show can't, where that nice rich dinner can't. Every time you try to save yourself, you make it worse. Do you understand that? Who is the Savior and what is being saved? Both sides are delusions. See, you think that you have a problem. You have life is passing me by. I'm getting older. I don't have money. Everybody else succeeded. I haven't. One day they like me. The next day they don't like me. One day I'm smiling because I feel approved and accepted. The next day they walk by me and scorn me and I'm depressed. Because you don't understand life, you say that you have a problem that must be solved. You don't have any problem that must be solved. If we use the word problem consciously, deliberately, we can say that your only problem is thinking that you have a problem. You show me, come on, I dare you, I challenge you to show me one thing in this whole universe that can make you unhappy. Show it to me. You can't. Come on. I'm inviting you in your own mind. You tell me one thing, one, in the billions of things in the universe, show me one thing that can make you miserable, can make you sad. Show it to me. Show it to me. You can't do it, can you? Oh, I didn't say lie to me. I said show it to me. I know you're capable of a stream, a torrent of lies, because that's your whole life. Well, you'll tell me, you'll write notes to me and write it down, that you're not sure of what you're doing. You say, that's my problem. I'm not sure of what I'm doing. You want that. You love that, not knowing what to do, so that you can be a confused person, so you can be a person. Now, I will tell you again, maybe you can get it if I put it in a different way. What problem does freedom have? Freedom is free. If your mind was free, where would the problem be? There is no, listen, you supreme egotists, there is no you to have any difficulty whatever. None. Then why are you so sad, so defeated, so sarcastic? Why are you all cramped up like this inwardly? You don't go around like that physically, but that's the way you are inwardly. Aren't you? Defensive, paranoid, wrapped up like that. I'm going to give you another chance. You tell me one thing that can cause you to be unhappy. Come on, what is it? See, when I put it that way, it causes you to think a little bit. And if you could watch yourself at the time you're trying to figure it out, you could see that you'll go into explanations, won't you? Yes, but. And you'll tell another falsehood. All right. At this time of about 12 minutes after 7, I am telling all of you that effective as of right now, there's no excuse for you to be unhappy, unpleasant over anything whatever from now on. I am telling you that. You have no excuse now for being sad, for feeling defeated, for being hostile, for crying, for cringing. You no longer have any excuse for trying to find another human being to like or love you. Since when does spiritual wholeness have to ask or add anything? You're walking around believing in yourself, believing in your difficulties, in your struggles, believing in them, and it is your choice, and that is your tragedy. You insist upon believing in you, and all out of that phony you arises everything that bothers you. You always get it back. You put yourself out into the world. You've seen this in your human relationships. You put yourself out into the world, get all mixed up, all involved with it. You put your outer surface personality out into the world, and you get exactly what you are because you associate out in that world with what you are. That's what you want. You ladies, again, I ask you, you ladies ever get involved with the wrong man, huh? After a while, he wasn't so kind anymore. He was cruel. And he wanted to borrow money from you. Ladies, you or any crummy man you meet, you are him. Your natures are exactly the same. See? Now you're going to have to take a responsibility for that, you men too. You're going to have to take responsibility for what happens to you, because what happens to you out in the world first happened to you inwardly. The falsehood that you believe in that man, you first told the lie to yourself. Now maybe you can now grasp the following. If this is new to you, take it with wide open arms. If you've heard it before, just assume that it's new to you, so make it equally welcome. See if you can take a leap into the light. Life, therefore, is not of the body. Life, therefore, is not of the mind. Life is of the Spirit. You don't have life. You have your physical body, which you take as life. You have your mind, which you take as something very exciting or very powerful, when it's really a wrecking machine. If life, capital L, is not of this physical self, and if it's not of this mind, then it has to be something else. Now that something else cannot be known by the mind or the body, so don't try. Don't you dare think you understand what I'm talking about, because you don't. You don't even understand the most elementary principles of human nature, of yourself. You don't understand yourself at all. You say you do because you want to believe you do. But if you understood, would you be that tragic figure to yourself that you are? If you really, look, listen to me. Now, look, I put it so simply. If you really understood yourself, you would understand all of life, and you would not be wallowing around in the swamp as you do. Now, the mind and the body cannot understand the spirit. Let's get that clear first. You seated here right now, I'm talking to you spiritually. Your mind cannot understand what I'm saying spiritually. It cannot experience it. It can take the ideas about it. Yes, you could do that. And that's good. That's necessary. You have to start on the level you have to start at. You can take these ideas and you can think about them and begin to make a lot of connections with the other things that were said. And then what you'll do for the next 10 years is try to be spiritual by thinking. And it'll drive you more crazy than you already are. You'll try to be spiritual with thought. Any religious hypocrite can do that. How many of you have been a religious hypocrite in the past? Anyone could go to a building with a stained glass window and pretend he's praying to God. That's simply the mind operating. That's the vanity operating. Get it clear right now then that your mind as it presently operates has no connection, your body too, has no connection with what is truly spiritual. But thinking that you can be spiritual by thinking about it, you'll continue to drag yourself into further illusions, for example, trying to convert other people. Why does anyone ever want to convert anyone else to a psychological or spiritual thought at all? Why? Why did the churches send thousands of missionaries out to other countries? You know the answer to that? The insecurity of the missionaries. They don't know who they are. First they've called themselves a Christian. That's not enough. Call themselves a child of God. That's not enough. Maybe a new label will do it. They call themselves a missionary, and they go out and cause grief to people in Africa or China or wherever. And now they've got a new label, and they're still the same person they were when they were 10 years old. Have you forgotten that lesson, by the way, that all adults are just little children? All they want is their candy bar. Something to give them a little warmth and a little comfort. And I'll give you evidence of what we're talking about. You do not understand human relationships. You don't understand business. You don't understand politics. You don't understand government. You don't understand family life. You don't understand anything at all. And I'll tell you why. Because you're inside the lunatic asylum as an inmate trying to understand the lunatic asylum. An inmate cannot understand what's going on there. He's part of it. Now, if you want something from that exterior world, if your exterior nature, that is your mind, your intellect, if you want something from that world, what do you want? Fame, money, acceptance, sex, romance, whatever. If you want something from that world, you'll have to continue with the same deception that you have now. And that deception is that you do understand it. Now, this is the madman inside the nut house pretending that he understands what goes on inside there. He doesn't understand it, but he'll make a pretense in order to get what he wants from the rest of the lunatics. That world out there is a mass of lunatics, all of them pretending various things, that they can guide us politically, that they can give us spiritual truths that could change our life, and on and on. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to see that you don't understand what's going on out there, because you don't understand what's going on in here. Your outer nature cannot understand that outer world. Haven't you noticed that simple fact that you don't know what's going on? Well, why did he suddenly switch like that toward me? Why did he suddenly switch his attitude toward me? Why don't things turn out the way I plan? I've got all these little plans I read in a book, 10 steps to success, and nothing happened. Your ego-centered, insecure, frightened outer nature, which is the surface nature inside you, that outer nature can only be a victim of the outer world. Everyone in that outer world, society, is a victim of everyone else, aren't they? Haven't you been a victim? Haven't you been a victim of other people? Now let's see if you'll nod your head as fast to this one. Haven't you victimized other people? Have you hurt other people? Of course. Have you stolen things from them? Have you tricked them in order to get what you want? Of course. Do you understand that, by the way? Do you know that if you hurt anyone, that's the same as self-hurt? Now, see, I give you such an elementary thing. Let's see if you really see it. And you see it if you drop it. If you go out of this room and you continue to hurt other people just by being what you are, for example, that means you don't understand what I just said. It means you don't understand that you are hurting yourself when you hurt that other person. Because the very capacity to injure must originate with you, the hard remark, the pretense. That's a big one, isn't it? The pretense that you understand. You project what you are, first suffering it from yourself, and you project it into the outer world and hurt other people, and then you go into a phony shame over it, phony guilt over it, and never see that it is possible for you and you and you. It is possible for you to no longer live from the mind, from the physical body, but to live from the spirit of truth, the spirit of wholeness, the spirit of health. Which do you want? Now you make up your mind right now. You have a choice. And I'll tell you what your choice consists of. It consists of voluntarily being hurt by the resistance, the truth that you're hearing, feeling the hurt, being conscious of the hurt, which the truth doesn't cause, your resistance causes it, but a little bit of pain, and then not running away from that pain. There is no way any of you in this room can ever go out that door and never come back and rescue yourself. If you go out that door and don't come back, you are sunk. And you'll be sunk tomorrow and next year and the next 5 years. And the reason I say this to you is because you're so utterly stupid about yourself that a certain right shock at the right time could force you to see where you didn't want to see before. Maybe 2 years from now, maybe one of you new people, maybe 2 years from now, your stupid arrogance will begin to crumble. your pretense that you know more than what you've heard in this room. God help you if you think you know that. And if you go away from here and don't come back, you are thinking that. Maybe when the pretense and the pain gets too bad, you'll think, now what did he say? I remember what he said. He said, if I don't come back here, I'm going to be lost. You know, that man's a prophet. Psychological prophet. Spiritual prophet. I'm telling you, I don't want to fool with you people. I don't have to fool with you. I don't want anything to do with you. If you don't come back here, I have to explain. If you live in another state, you can take the books. If you have to live and make your living in Seattle, that's another story. But you people who can come back here, if you don't come back, you're sunk. Now, do you want that, or do you want to go where you'll be lied to and lied all the way to hell? Which, by the way, is your present condition. I can tell by your faces where you live. I can tell by your hardness, by your fear. Now I know you're afraid of this. I know that. Let's trick the devil together right now. I know that all of you, especially you new people, are uncertain what this is all about your first time. It's always a shock the first time, first 80 times, right? 180? Now, we're going to trick the devil. When you're afraid of this, and you say, I don't want to come back because it's not for me, and you lie, I already understand. Anyone who leaves, listen to this, anyone who leaves this class always lies about the reason. If you go out of here and don't come back, you're a liar. And you're going to lie yourself into more misery than you can imagine. You think you're miserable now. You just wait till what happens when you reject the truth in this class and don't come back to them. You just wait. Now we're going to trick the devil. When people come here, because it is the light, and they are living in darkness, and darkness despises light, correct? You understand that, don't you? Darkness hates light. Falsehood hates truth. I want you to know that this fear you have of what you're hearing, this rejection of it, which you're pretending now in your own mind that you're not rejecting, but when you go out, the devil's going to take you right outside that door, unless you listen to me. We can send you out of here with light if you have enough sense to take it. What is worried, what is afraid in you, what is even hostile in you right now is not you at all. This is tricking the devil. We're doing it now. It is something that has taken over your life, that has kidnapped you, that has made you a phony when you don't have to be a phony, made you think that you have to continue the way you've lived in the past. You don't have to continue with it. Anything that is painful inside of you is false. It's not of the spirit at all. It's of your mind and of your acquired conditioning. So understand that much. It takes so long to explain these things. Those of you who are new, those of you who are old too, anything in you that resists what you hear is not you, but something that wants to continue to keep you a captive of its own sickness. Don't you cooperate with it for one more second. The one way you can escape what has taken over your life and the life of your brother and your sister and your mom and your papa and your children and your uncles and all the friends and all your neighborhood. What has taken them over and taken you over need not endure as the tyrant in your life. But you can't live with the world and expect to find the truth. For heaven's sake, use your brains for 1 second. All we're asking you to do is to give up your hell. so you won't be such a cruel, vicious human being to go spreading the fires of hell around to everyone you meet, which you do when you did it today. Your level is your hell. You take your level with you where you go, and you depress people just by being you. Now you think long and hard about what you've heard here. Don't you believe those sick friends of yours. They don't want what's going on here. Is there something in you that is just a little bit weary of being you? I'll tell you something. There's something in you that's very, very tired of being a big fake, which you are. You're a big fake. I'm talking to you. I close my eyes and hit everybody. You're a big fake. We will show you in this room that the fakery is simply something that has taken you over. It's not a permanent, it is not a necessary part of you. But you can't, as part of that pretense, pretend that you can do it on your own, that you can do better, that you can read a book, or you're going to a minister who's going to help you out. God help you if you fall in the hands of a minister. They've already done enough damage to you. Because you believe in their satanic smiles. All right. If you decide for yourself, you will come back here. If you decide for your own increasing misery, then you won't come back. Thank God I'm free of your decision. I had to make my own at one time. Make your decision in favor of the light. One day you'll understand what a beautiful act it was. Would you really like to know the cause of your problems and everyone else's difficulties on earth? Let's see if you really want to know. If you do, then give heed and act upon what you hear. Problems such as the one that happened to you many times a day but slipped by unnoticed because you don't notice your own experiences. Think of that. You don't notice your own experiences. The experience where something unexpected and unwanted happened to you, not a great event, a major event, but maybe a series of small ones. Something came to you and you found yourself in a situation where your mind became blocked. And the only answer you knew in the face of this sudden onslaught, challenge, strange, weird event, the only answer you knew was to go blocked. And incidentally, when you unblock yourself, you simply go to another block, which you call an answer, because you go to another false solution in your treasure chest you call, which is junk. Now I'm going to tell you, you new people, the rest of you, I'm going to tell you the only cause of your personal confusion, dismay, hiding out, chattering to yourself all day long nonsensically. I'm going to tell you the cause of it. Because when you learn the cause, you can also know the cure. But oh, what a cause. One that you have lived with in the dark all this time and unnecessarily. Because if your heart, your spirit had been right, you could have been out of yourself by now. The cause of all your problems is thinking about you. All the difficulties, blockages, heartaches, yearning for something you can't have, hoping someone will smile at you. all your pains are caused by you thinking about you. Now, there it is. If you get what I said, if you will remember it with your heart as well as with your mind, you can begin the journey to unraveling this mystery called you. And as the mystery is unraveled, the pain all by itself falls away. You now try in vain and in frustration. Isn't frustration a good description of your life? Of course it is. You try in vain to get rid of pains, worries. Let's use the word worries. You now try to get rid of worries while insisting upon keeping the worrier. Now, what kind of nonsense is that? Did you hear what I just said? You would vow to anyone, yes, I want to get rid of these worries. You don't want to get rid of them. You want to keep the worrier. If there's a worrier, there's worries. You won't get rid of you, the worrier. I said that you're the cause of everything. Will you drop the worrier? No. Because you have no real legal occupation in this life as yet. You're spiritually unemployed. And have you ever noticed when you're unemployed you don't get paid? Have you ever noticed when you don't get paid you don't have the money you need, the resources you need to handle daily life out there? For handling your own inner life in there. So you wander around faking it. You're a bunch of fakers. Come on. Look, just between you and me, you and I, which is the best grammar? Between all three of us. Between us, could you sort of, break down a little bit? Put aside your hard mask, your phony mask, which is seen through anyway here, and just admit that you're a big fake. That you don't want to solve your difficulties, you don't want to get rid of them, for the reason I stated. That your pleasure-pain, is to think about what you call yourself, which is not yourself at all, but simply other thoughts. These are thoughts thinking about thoughts. Think about that. Ideas thinking about ideas. Delusions thinking about delusions. And you are not in your own life at all. How about that? Doesn't that shake you up a little bit? To discover that you are not in your own life, that's a fact. You have nothing to do with life. You're wandering around in the wilderness out there, pretending that you are, and you won't listen to the Spirit of truth that is trying to tell you what I have just told you in words, trying to tell you through spiritual communication, that you play a dreadful trick on yourself by thinking that as long as you think about you, that you are real, and you are not. Listen. Let me describe reality to you so you can begin to grasp this a little bit. To be real means that you're quiet inside. To be real means that you have all the answers, and you don't have to ask any questions because you already have the answers. There's no need to ask anything. You know what you're doing because you know what the Spirit of truth is doing in your life. Reality means that nothing, look, do you understand when I say nothing? That means nothing. So you can't creep away and find a corner to hide in. Reality means that nothing can scare you. What's scaring you? Oh, 1,000 things, right? Anything that is scaring you is doing so with your invitation, your permission, and your hugging of it. I tell you that if you were to let go of your worries, they would go. If you would let go of them, they would go. But you want to keep the worrier and get rid of the worries, which is ridiculous and impossible. Now look, think with me. We're going to break through here, I tell you. Will you agree, you've got a little sense? How many of you have a little sense? I thought you had a little sense. Worries really serve no purpose. You'll agree with that, won't you? I'm pleading with you. Come on, so I know you're there. Worries serve no purpose. What is worry? Agitation, egotism, the whole bit. All right. Now, if worries, thoughts, emotions, don't do anything for you, then can there be, by simple, plain logic, any value in being a worrier? Isn't being a worrier who worries the same thing, isn't it? Of course. Boy, I'll tell you, the devil is starting to get scared here. The devil is your dark resistance to what I'm telling you. You don't even know you're doing it. You don't know you're doing it. You don't know yourself at all. Now, if being a worrier has no value at all, contrary to what worry tells you, being frantic, anxious, looking at the world, not like that, If there's no value in being a worrier, which there isn't, why don't you abandon that false identity? I didn't say you had to think about it. All you have to do is drop it. Insight will drop it if you see it. Can't you see the contradiction? Can't you see why you're torn apart? When you go through your day and you cry, why did this happen? How did this happen? How did I get trapped in this circumstance that cost me so much money, so much grief? I make a move, it's a wrong move. I make a move to correct that, it's a second wrong move, a third, all on top of each other. Your complaining against life is pure fakery on your part. Anything. And I mean your very living in this vicious, cruel world that does indeed, as a fact, make it as hard as it can on everyone it can. You don't know, you don't see the total flood of insanity that this world lives from. Oh, but just a minute. If you don't see what I've just said, that the world is mad, you can't go on to the next step. So please see it. And if you want to know what an insane world this is, look at yourself, because you're part of it. You are part of it. You contribute to it. Look at your sad face. Look at your manner. Look at how you complain. Look at how you like to lash out at people secretly while pretending you're not doing it. There is hope for you and you and you. There is hope for you to become a whole, good human being if you see completely the ungoodness, the evil of this planet that you presently occupy. As long as you want to hang on to your lies about how good human beings are, basically, they are not good. They are evil, just as you are. You want to know what you are like? You're just like your neighbor. You want to know what your next door neighbor is like? He's just like you. There's no difference in the two of you. You know that. And when I tell you that, there's something in you that senses I'm telling you the truth. Are you going to fight that? Are you going to worry? Are you going to be a worrier over what these beautiful truths are going to do to your life? And I want all of you to know something about yourself, this self that you think about all the time. I want you to know that you're an unconscious hypocrite. And that's what keeps you glued to the repetitious, routine, boring pattern of your life. You're bored, aren't you? Let me tell you why you're bored. Because you insist upon your kind of false excitement, and there's not enough in the whole universe for you. And your idea of false excitement is to have everything and everyone come to you and tell you that you are you. And that can never happen because you're not you. I'm going to tell you more than that. Listen to this. You're not a worrier at all. I'll tell you what's happening. Your system, your thoughts and feelings, your reactions, and the way you talk have been taken over. You've been captured, you've been kidnapped, you've been carried off. You are not a worrier because worry doesn't give you an identity. It doesn't give you a self. You'll gradually go mad if you cling to that. That's what, you know what madness is? You know what insanity is? Alienation from the truth that you have no identity at all apart from spiritual descriptions of yourself, which are wordless. See, you can think about who you are, which you do all the time. Everything is centered around you, right? You can think about who you are, which will drive you to the edge of the cliff. Or you can know who you are. And when you know who you are, you have conquered time, you've conquered eternity. You've conquered yourself. You've conquered everything. Now, if you conquered something, that means there's no more fight, right? Now, you still got fight in you? Of course you have. All you do is fight. That means you haven't conquered. That means you're thinking. That means you don't want to give up thinking for fear that there's nothing higher than it. Do you know one characteristic of delusion? One little special sinister sentence that keeps repeating to you is that if you let go of it, illusion, if you let go of it, you will be lost. You're lost now? Aren't you lost? And if you don't come back here and hear more, you're going to be more lost than before. Because you've heard the truth I'm telling you tonight. And if you reject it, too bad for you. I know what's going to happen to you. I know exactly what's going to happen to every one of you in this room, depending on what you do with what you're hearing here tonight. Oh, by the way, I should tell you something. Let's see if you can make this connection. Vernon doesn't know it at all. But there's a knowing. Have you got a glimpse of that? Have you got a little glimpse of that yet? What it means to not think from you, to not think from immaturity. The one way you're going to break out of this dreadful circular pattern that you're in is to realize that the whole world is immature, thinks from that immaturity, and then you start to be different. And here's how you can start. See how gracious truth is, how it always provides the step, if you want the step. The step is for you to wish to go from immaturity to maturity, spiritual maturity. Wouldn't you, in all honesty, describe yourself as an immature human being? Of course you would. You know what? Well, you know what maturity would be? It would be to be in charge of yourself, wouldn't it? Now, are you in charge of yourself when you're petty? Are you in charge of yourself when you look out at the world? You know, you men, you look out at the world of pretty girls, and you look out at the world of those long new cars, and you look out at the world of those people going down the sidewalk all laughing as if they're having a good time down at the fun spot. Have you ever watched yourself watch the world, by the way? How pathetic. Looking out, they're having so much fun. You don't have any fun. You don't have a girlfriend. You don't have any money to go out and spend. Self-torment in thinking thoughts like that is one of the most hideous deceptions ever played on a human being by evil forces in order to keep him as he or she is. Looking out at the world with greed, with desire, with craving, wanting to be as happy as those people. Those people are heading for the nut house. They're 5 steps away. Your purpose in coming here is to change directions and go in the other direction. Sometimes nature can provide a spiritual teaching as follows. Think of a flower seed that nature's released into the air. A flower seed. Potentialities of a beautiful flower in the little hard seed. And nature wafts it around in the air for a while and it goes off in one direction, and the little flower seed falls down into mud. It's not comfortable there. It knows it doesn't belong in the mud. So you know what it does? Follow. It waits till the wind comes along again, picks it up again. The wind takes it another place. It takes it in hard ground, hard rocky ground. See, the seed has a natural sensing, doesn't it? This is intelligence in seeds in nature. The tree knows how to grow. The flower seed senses that it's in the wrong place among the rocks and among all those obnoxious weeds. It senses it doesn't belong there. So what does it do? I hope you're doing it. It just rests there. It doesn't dig in. Don't you dig in. Not 1 inch further, starting tonight. You've gone far enough attaching yourself to that hard ground, haven't you? You stop right where you are. And don't be afraid to just, wherever you are, that rocky ground, don't be afraid wherever you are, just to lie there lightly and wait for something that is outside of you to pick you up and carry you to another spot. It will happen. How do you expect the wind to take you to a fertile ground, to a better place, as long as you've dug in, said, this is a good place for me? For heaven's sakes, don't you have any spiritual sight at all? Can't you look around and see where you are? The dryness of it, the rocks, the weeds. You were not meant to love weeds, and you had better stop right now. If you don't, you will become so much in love with your surroundings, with the hardness of it, the barrenness of it, that you will start to settle down, and that wind won't be able to pick you up and take you to a better place. You'd better let go. You'd better relax. And you'd better take a deep breath, and you'd better look around and see where you are and see what's happening to you. And I want you to notice something. You, as a seed that has possibilities for growing into something far more beautiful than a weed, I want you to take a very close look at those weeds. I want you to notice how unhappy they are, how they droop in the dry ground. I want you to notice how distorted their growth has become because there's no refreshing water in that land. I want you to look at your relatives. I want you to look at the people you work with. I want you to, sometime when you're waiting for a traffic signal, I just want you to look at those people coming towards you, and look at that man to your right and the woman to your left. And you'll see the weeds of society who, when they were wafted to the hard ground, they said, this is it. This is a good place to be. Is there something in you, that little wish for maturity, that doesn't want to stay there?